It is a pleasure to have you all here. Good morning also to our viewers and listeners following via several forms of media. Today, I will start out with a bit of sad news. I'm sure some have already heard, but the ministry has lost one of its own. Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, head of the Inspectorate, Mrs. Chantal Schamine Ringling, passed away on Monday after a bout of serious illness, which in some cases we must say thankfully she's no longer suffering from, but we do extend our deepest condolences to her husband, Mr. John Schamine, her daughter Talia, her mother, her brother, who were all here with her, as well as all those close friends, colleagues, all the students whose lives she's touched as a teacher for many, many years, as well as her colleagues, her closest colleagues within the ministry, who she worked directly with, who will surely miss her. The information regarding her homegoing service will be broadcast via the media, but I take this time as Minister of Education to extend our deepest condolences on this loss. We've also, as a ministry, it's, you know, a rough time of the month. Schools are out and things are going quite slow, but we will continue to persevere. At this time, I would like to make a few announcements. Over the past couple of months, we have had several sporting organizations, and we have heard about several of our athletes doing very well on island as well as abroad. And to give a highlight or some of the areas in which government has helped, I've asked the department to compile so that the general public can know how government contributes to these events as well as some of the travel that takes place. So from 2016, in February, we as government assisted the St. Martin Aquatic Federation to travel to the Carifta Games and mainly covered the cost for the delegation to travel. In February also, the St. Martin Sport and Olympic Committee traveled to Santo Domingo that's when they requested it. They just recently returned from a trip to Santo Domingo of 40 to 50 athletes and trainers for a national team training camp. This was an extremely large endeavor, and we are very proud as government to have been able to do that as well. Of course, we assisted in celebrating Casey Carty's victory as the only St. Martiner to have reached that level of play in cricket and many international sports as well. We've also not made a monetary donation, but to the Battle of the Fittest competition that ended on Sunday, which showcased basketball skills from several countries and islands within the region. We were able to not do monetary financing, but were able to offer them a great discount for the usage of the Great Bay Sports Auditorium in collaboration with the Upkeep Foundation. Island Hoops is also another youth basketball group that traveled to Pennsylvania, and we were able to assist them as well. And a young taekwondo athlete, Mr. Justin Wilson, was assisted to be able to travel to Korea with his team to take part and actually won several medals. So we are very proud to have been able to help. Coming up, we have the Netball Association as well as the Volleyball Association, which will be holding international championships, and we've assisted those as well. And just recently concluded Little League Latin American and Caribbean championships. We were able to, as government, contribute to those as well. Team Don't Quit also was a beneficiary with their Fittest on the Rock event, and the St. Martin Volleyball Association, as I mentioned earlier. So in total, up to now, we've assisted 10 organizations over the 6-7 month period across 8 sports, including the 7 big sports which we are training for to prepare our students, our young athletes, for the games in Barranquilla, Mexico. These range from subsidies, which cover a range, whether travel, operational costs, hosting costs, etc. And we will continue as government to assist as many as possible. Our budget is not very big, and so therefore, especially sometimes we have to turn down, especially based on our limitations in budget. In a short introduction to our young students in the House today, the Finance Minister explained what he does in the sense of balancing what income with what goes out in terms of the monies. And it is sometimes understandable that people want more than we can actually do, but we must be very, very realistic, and we are also held accountable for how we spend the country's funds. So based on the budget that we have established for sports, we are, I think, on track to actually finish up that money quite much faster than we had anticipated, but we will continue to assist based on the budgetary availability that we have. Also, in an update from the Study Financing Division, we have had 182 applications for study financing, of which 124 have been granted, a total of 68%. 51 have been denied, 28%. Some of these have appealed their cases, and these cases, 60% of these have already been handled. However, I have not yet received the advice from the appeals committee, so that is still pending. And 7 of these applicants are still pending, depending on whether they get accepted to their field of study or have passed their exams. As you know, many of the CXC students get their exams results quite late, so they are still pending. They're filling in some other areas, or the division receiving all the required documentation, etc. The most popular area of studies, several, I'm just going down in order, were nursing, psychology, law, Habeo-Recht, and international and European law, medicine, business administration and accounting, finance, education, and ICT. The usual countries that our students apply to still hold in effect. We have an addition of Scotland. That's a new one, one student. But the majority are to the USA, or about even with the Netherlands. St. Martin, remaining on St. Martin, we have 20 students, 37 to the US so far, that is prior to the pending and appeals cases, 36 to the Netherlands, and 22 here, remaining here on St. Martin. England 8, Canada 7, and then under the 5 to various other countries and islands within the Caribbean. Some trends have been noted, whereby an increasing number of PSVE students are applying for study financing, utilizing after taking GED classes. Also, while we support as a ministry students seeking higher education, a considerable drop in the academic performance is being noted. So we are really looking at, to be able to maintain your study financing, and in some cases, maintaining the in-state tuition that we have the agreement with these universities. Students must maintain a 2.5 GPA. So with this, I'm really trying to encourage students that this is a privilege. As I've read out the numbers, some students have been denied for whatever reason. You have been granted. It's a privilege for you to receive this funding. Most people, they ask the question year in, year out. I don't say scholarship per se, because it is a partial scholarship and a partial grant. And some of the repercussions of not passing is that it turns over completely to a full loan. So you're only going to be able to enjoy the benefits of having a partial grant if you actually maintain your GPAs, your grade point averages, if you do well and you graduate. If you do not live up to those requirements, it then becomes a complete loan. This becomes a burden on you and your parents without having attained that actual degree. So really and truly, you must focus. You must go out there and do your very, very best to be able to maintain these numbers. It is sometimes quite disturbing for me. It hurts my heart to have to actually sign off on whether it's pulling back a scholarship or pulling back study financing from a student for this reason, or even to just send them the information. Your study financing has not been revoked. However, you will not be able to enjoy the in-state tuition any longer at this school because your grades are too low. It hurts me, but these are the policies that we have, and it is in order for us to safeguard that the funds we spend are done so in a accountable manner, It would be a waste of government funds to have several students failing their classes and taking much longer than they were supposed to. And it is a risk also for the universities in question when they allow our students to have in-state tuition, and then these students do not live up to their obligations in terms of making the grades. So I hereby encourage and implore all of the new students and the current students to get in good standing, maintain your grade point averages, do what you have to do, buckle down and study hard, because we do need you on St. Martin, and it's an investment in you. And you must understand that that investment mainly is for you, but it has a huge contribution and repercussions on the budget of government as well. The students from our HAVO or CXC schools continue to perform extremely well. And so I believe in St. Martin, and this is part of the educational reform that we as ministry are looking at, is we really need to find ways to better prepare our PSV and VSBO students to within their regular schools so that they are better equipped to take on the academic challenges of college. The preparatory workshops are currently ongoing for students who have received study financing. These workshops are geared towards preparing them to live and study abroad and are currently being facilitated by the Division Study Financing as well as Student Support Services Division. Workshops are currently being held at NIPA and for the Holland-bound students who will be leaving on Sunday, the 31st of July. With TUI, 34 of those 36 students will be leaving. They will be accompanied by the 2 guidance counselors who came from the Netherlands to be here for these workshops and return to the Netherlands with them. Upon arrival in the Netherlands, they will be welcomed by the Minister Plenipotentiary, Mrs. Henrietta Duran-York. They will have lunch, etc., and then depart to their respective study cities. The orientation week of activities will be closed off with a workshop on August 5th at the St. Martin House in The Hague. Students leaving for Tallahassee will be leaving on August 7th, 10 students, and they will be met by the St. Martin Student Association in Tallahassee and the Links Foundation, assisting them and welcoming them. On the 5th of August, students, we have 3 for Aruba and 4 for Curacao will be leaving, and the balance of the students will be leaving at varying times depending on the commencement dates of their different schools. So with that, that's an update on our students, our study financing recipients, as well as the obligations that we have met as it pertains to sports. We face several challenges within education. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to just give the rosy story and leave out some of the less rosy areas. We do have some challenges which the ministry is trying to resolve, where as it pertains to the St. Martin Vocational Training Schools, 4 classrooms not being finished. We've been recently made aware that the contractor has slowed down the works, even though he has had several opportunities. This was supposed to be finished since February, so that puts us in another deficit for space as school will start. So I know, and we are definitely trying to find solutions. One of the areas that we are looking at is with the current school boards, some of the students, so we had a high number of students also that were referred to the St. Martin Vocational Training School, and these discussions still have to happen with some of the other school boards who have vocational programs as well, PSVE type programs within their schools, to see if we can facilitate some of these students. Some also upgrading work will be taking place before school starts at specifically 2 public schools, and that is also in the planning, the St. Martin Vocational Training School and the Oranje School, which needs a serious facelift. Actually, it will be a collaborative effort. We have been speaking here as government as trying to get business involved in assisting here and there. We're working on a adopt a school policy as well. However, within, we said we should try to lead by example. And the ministry, in our last strategic meeting, I brought this forward to them, and they were very, very willing to assist. So on 2 days between now and when schools, I'm not going to divulge the date until, you know, everything is finalized and signed off, but we as a ministry will volunteer to assist with some of the painting, etc., that will be taking place at these two schools under the supervision of the contractors that have been hired to do so. So with this, I'm again encouraging any business people who have volunteers, not for these two projects, I think we will have enough, but in the future, some of you have students in schools and you are handy, you know, and if you see something that needs help, many people have been, you know, giving me some licks in the media about trying to bring down the budget for the school busing. But in reality is when we do not bring down the unnecessary spending that we are doing, we are hurting the areas where we are lacking. And we do acknowledge that we are lacking, definitely, in keeping our schools in good condition. So we do have also the advice in the process for the critical upgrades of our public schools, but it is in the process and will require some time to be finalized. So I ask you to bear with us as we face some of these challenges moving forward. It is a great challenge, and everyone will be asked to how you say, accommodate, and of course it won't be pleasant at all times, but we do strive and hope to be able to meet the needs with the funds that we have. Thank you.
Radio listeners, TV viewers, members of the press, esteemed colleagues, and of course, our special guests here today, the kids from the summer camp. The Minister of Education just say, you know, of course, it's summer, so things are slow. And you are going to summer camp, not in school. But while people are having vacation and going slow, at the Ministry of Finance, things are picking up speed because we have deadlines to meet. And deadlines that has to do with the health and wealth of the entire country. So we would like to come and go on summer camp with you, but at this time of the year, we really can't. 2017 budget is what is keeping us extremely busy at this time. Because that budget too, we have to do all in our power to balance it out. You know, as we talked just now, I said to you, you know, do you know what the Minister of Finance does? And it's always a complicated question to answer. But if I ask you, if your mom or your pop is earning 2,000 guilders a month, can you spend 3,000? Absolutely not. So then what do you have to do? You have to cut down on your spending. Or there's something else you could do. You get a side job and help work and bring in more income. And that way, you know, you could also try to make ends meet. Because if you don't make ends meet, what is going to be the consequence? And that's a consequence that we all have to avoid. You don't want to be in a position you can't pay your rent. You don't want to be in a position that the landlord take away your house from you, or the bank, or somebody else. You need to exercise discipline. You need to bite the bullet. You need to make the hard choices. There's not at home an abundance of money to do everything you want. And surprisingly enough, the same thing is the case in government. There's a lot we would like to do, a lot more we would like to do. But to do it, you have to generate the income first. Then you could spend to do more. And there's so much to be done that you never have enough money to do it all. So you have to make wise decisions. Now, what is the wise decisions we are called upon to make for the 2017 budget? First of all, you're shooting in the dark. Why I say you're shooting in the dark? You really don't know. I mean, you know what your house rent is. You know what you have to buy in dog food. You know what you have to do to buy clothes for the kids going to school. All of those things are known. And in government, what you don't know is what is coming in. You have to guess. And then suppose you guess wrong. Suppose you guessed wrong, then instead of getting in 100 million, you get in 50 million. Then you have a problem to find the resources, to find the money that you're lacking. Now you're going to have to go and cut again to bring down. People have to bite the bullet again. It is no magic. Some people think it's magic, and they have the luxury to say, I want, I need, we have to, this, needs here. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you've got to make decisions. What can you afford? Now, for the 2017 budget, of course, we do not yet know what we've taken in 2016. In the beginning of the year, we got a surprise that the first 2 months we got in millions less than the year before. But thank God, the next couple of months, it more or less balanced itself out. The next couple of months, we got in more money than the same period the year before. For instance, income tax. Well, we have here, as you know, every man, woman, and child, according to the statistics on St. Martin, makes $26,000 US per year. That's according to the IMF information. Right? We look around and we can't see it, but those are statistical facts. But strangely enough, although that was the case so last year, do you know net how much money we collected in income tax last year? Now make a guess. A wild guess. Give me a number.
Any number.
Yes. 5 million? No. Anybody else? How much? 1 million. No. Next one, how much? 6 million. No. Yes. 10 million? No. Well, let me sort of break the monotony as far as that is concerned. We collected net in 2015, although we have the highest income in the entire Caribbean, more than Jamaica, more than Barbados, more than Guyana, more than most of all of the Latin American countries. $26,000 US a year. And you know how much we collected last year net in income tax? 0. Net 0. This year, up to now, we've been able to collect somewhere around 500,000 guilders. But compared to the year before, so that's why I said to you that projecting and guessing what 2016 will end up with and what you got to project for next year, that's the magic that you've got to apply to be able to get a budget projection that's acceptable to Parliament and acceptable to the supervisory body on financial matters on St. Martin. Let me leave you there with that. Thank you very much for coming by today. And if there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to address.
I was deceived about the nature of my job. I was abducted and sold. All my documents were confiscated and money was withheld from me. I was isolated and confined to one area. I was forced into prostitution. I was forced to lie to authorities and my family. Now that you know, what will you do?
You can help by calling the National Reporting Bureau on Human Trafficking at 542-1553 or send email to naticotip@gmail.com. Human trafficking and exploitation. Please report it.
Minister Jacobs, I listened to your presentation, but I have one or two questions for you. Prince William Alexander School, where are we? And do you believe that we will get that school ready for the opening of school this year, next year?
Prince William?
Yes, the school that has to be rebuilt because of asbestos.
Yes, it was I was supposed to update you on Thursday, tomorrow. We are having the groundbreaking, finally, for the reconstruction. So it has to be demolished, etc. All the steps will be taken to that there will be no health hazard for the community. That question has already come to me several times before, and I've been reassured by the ministry that the companies that have won that part of the bid have strict regulations on what they're supposed to do in terms of the demolition. So on Thursday upcoming, that will be the groundbreaking for that project. It will in no way be ready for this school year, but the whole process starts now. That process starts now. I don't have off the top of my head how long it's expected to take, but it is the first phase of this project. This project has been years in the making. The current location of the Prince William Alexander School, so the students that would be housed there are going to continue to be housed in Belvedere at the Alma Fleming School. So they have a location, and that location is fine. The students, the management, the staff, etc., will continue to utilize that space until their school is completed.
As per the school busing, the transportation school bus, there are a number of drivers that continues to complain. Have you come to a consensus with the Ministry of TIAT and, as yourself, as you said, you guys were working on it? Where are we exactly?
In the early part of this month, a meeting was held with the School Bus Association and other independent drivers who do not belong to the association, so it was an open meeting. They were supposed to, at that time, have open discussions on the presented policy, get feedback, etc. However, many stated that they had not received it in time, and a compromise was met that they would get that time to be able to go through it, and then we would meet again within the first week of August. So the next step would be another meeting in August to get the feedback from the stakeholders in this policy, on the policy as well as the SLA, the proposed policy and the proposed SLA by both ministries. There are already areas where we see that we need to tweak, so it is a work in progress.